Okay. Yes. Yeah, I see myself. I see myself. Yes. Yes. I think we're on. I think we're on. Can everyone hear me okay? Just put in the comments if you can. Yeah, I think you guys can. I think you guys can. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, definitely you can. Great to see you all again, guys. Great to see you all. Great to be back. It wasn't very long since the last one, right? But here we go. But here we go. Here we go. Oh my God, loads of you. Loads of you. I'm keen to. Yeah, a lot of you are right here. Happy days. Happy days. Kia, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, great to see you. Come on, tell me, guys. Tell me. Put in the comments. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? The paper one now out the way. Paper two tomorrow. How are we inside? How are your emotions? How's your mindset? Feeling good? How are you feeling? Yeah, paper two tomorrow. Paper two. A few of you a bit scared, a bit stressed. A few of you feeling great. I like it. I like it. I like it. Oh my God, we're already at over 2,000 people. My God, you guys are quick. Anticipation levels high. I love it. I love it. You can guys see I prepped as well today. What did I tell you on Sunday? I said I'm going to be really ready and fresh for this. Yeah, absolutely. The Dal fade is strong. Yeah, nice Dal fade. I went a bit stronger, right? Just for you guys. Strong on the Dal fade. Absolutely. Absolutely. Got to be fresh, got to be confident, got to be feeling light. Yeah, it's all about tomorrow. It's all about tomorrow, isn't it? Got to be peaking performance. I'm exactly the same with you, right? Got to hit that peak of performance, and that's with everything. Yeah, got to be feeling good generally. Got to be feeling good. Interesting. A lot of you are kind of, I'm seeing 50-50 a bit. 50-50 in the comments about how we're feeling, right? Let me tell you guys, you should be feeling confident. You should be feeling great because paper two is so different to paper one. Paper one is always going to be a bit trickier because micro is technical and the kind of questions they can ask can go in lots of funky directions. So you're lucky if you get like a bog standard paper one. That's a lucky day for you. That's great if it happens that way. But more likely, there'll be the odd weird question, there'll be the odd difficult question because that's just what micro is. Paper two is not like that. Paper two is bog standard all the time. The questions that come up are obviously linked to topic areas you've revised. You'll always be able to find key points. There'll always be topic areas that you like. It's a little bit more straightforward because really, if you get macro, if your content is good, then you'll always find questions that you can write well on and that you can score highly on. So you should feel confident. And let me say, guys, that really it's a content game is tomorrow. So hopefully by now your content has gone really well. You've mastered a lot of the key content. Hopefully you feel good there. I'm going to help you with some bits and bobs as this live stream continues. But really, macro is always a content game. If you know your stuff, there will be very bog standard questions that you can bring your points in, you can evaluate. So feel confident, if you know your stuff, if you've been testing yourself on it, then you're in a great position to absolutely nail that paper tomorrow. Trust me, 100% trust me on that. I also need to make a little point, guys, right? Ever since the live stream on Sunday, I've been receiving a lot of comments and messages and pictures and things about mangoes, but you guys are not doing it justice, right? Hey, when I'm talking about mangoes, I'm not talking about any bog standard mangoes. I'm not talking about Filipino mangoes. I'm not talking about Peruvian mangoes. I'm not talking about Costa Rican mangoes or Brazilian mangoes. No, none of that stuff. I'm not even talking about Thai mangoes. Now, Thai mangoes are very good. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about Indian mangoes. Indian mangoes, the king of fruits. Now, a few of you showed me pictures about those. Now, well done if you did. I'm talking about those, yeah? So, yeah, go and get those. You'll know the difference. They're the best ones. For sure, they are the best ones. So, yeah, a few of you sending through some, dodgy old mangoes. No. Got to be on the hype, the mango game. Anyway, exactly. Shout out to Indian mangoes. That's what we're looking for. Indian mangoes. All right, I think we're good to start, guys. Quite a few people are now on. I think we're ready to go. Who do we have? Fraser, Josh, love you guys. Harry, yeah, Michaela, Troy, Millen, Matthew, love you guys. Love you guys. Tahir, William, awesome. Look at you guys, yeah, making all these lovely kind of thoughts and just being awesome as normal. You guys really are the best. Okay, where are we now? Yeah, we're a good base, a very good base. Here we go, guys. Let's get things officially started. Let's just go for it. King advice, really useful stuff for you to think about, to question yourself, to remember for tomorrow's exam. Okay, tomorrow, gains to be made tomorrow. First thing, like I said, it's a content game. It really is all about mastery of content. I'm going to tell you from experience major topic areas that are normally under-revised for macro papers. Now, you've got to make sure you don't under-revise these topics because they're often questioned. So not just under-revised, but then they come up in the exam. The first one, think to yourself, do you know this well? Evaluation or problems with the measurements of growth, with the measurements of inflation, with the measurements of unemployment. So can you evaluate GDP as a measure of growth and living standards? Can you evaluate the labour force survey as a measurement of unemployment? Can you evaluate the CPI as a measurement of inflation? Can you believe last year there was a long essay question, one of the boards, evaluating the record level low of unemployment in the UK? And basically that question required you to know some of the issues with the labour force survey measurement of unemployment. If you don't know that, then you could be in trouble. Who knows what they might put up tomorrow? So make sure that you revise that well. The problems with the measures of growth, unemployment, and inflation. Problems with GDP, LFS, and the CPI. Next, do you know the costs and benefits of growth? The costs and benefits of high unemployment? The costs and benefits of inflation? Do you know them? They, guys, could be long essay questions. Can you believe that? They could be long essay questions. A lot of students have no idea. If I mention, for example, costs of inflation, do you know about fiscal drag? Do you know about menu costs? Do you know about purchasing power loss? Do you know about international competitiveness issues? Do you know about wage price spirals, consumer price spirals? These are just some examples. The costs and benefits of growth, unemployment, inflation, know them well. That could trick you a little bit. It could catch you out if you haven't revised those topic areas well. Okay, next, globalization and development. The two kind of link together, but they are separate topic areas. Globalization and development. Now, I know a few examples have kind of nailed these topic areas recently because they are hot topic areas, especially globalization, but a few examples have totally left them out. So for some of you, this is a big deal. Do not under-revise globalization. In your head, just think of globalization as four major avenues. Freer trade, opening up to FDI, opening up to migration flows, and opening up capital flows. Capital flows are like money flows. Four major avenues there. If these things become freer, that is more globalization. So in your head, globalization is knowing the pros and cons of all of those four different things. The pros and cons of freer trade, the pros and cons of FDI, the pros and cons of migration flows, the pros and cons of easier money flows, capital flows between countries. That's your globalization. Know it well. Know it well. But then development. Okay, there is a link between globalization and development. Of course there is. But development as its own topic area. Have you noticed, guys? All the examples love development. They have been asking so many questions on development recently. All of them have. So make sure you haven't under-revised it, not just because it comes up, but because it's a gift. It is an absolute gift of a question if it comes up. Development. So simple. So simple. Okay, let's cover some major topic areas that tend to feature in the exam. Growth versus development could be a long essay question. Trade and development. FDI and development, aid and development, market-based policies for development, interventionist policies for development, microfinance and development. These are all major long essay kind of titles, long essay styles that link to development. That's a good way to go and just make sure that you're ready for your points there. Now, what's very easy is that if you think about it, a lot of these things you've already covered elsewhere in the course. Like you know the costs and benefits of growth, you know the pros and cons of free trade, you know the pros and cons of FDI. Market-based policies, pros, cons, interventionist policies, pros, cons. You've learned those before, right? So when you're writing development essays, you've got to make sure that, yeah, you make your points and you explain your points, but you've got to make sure your development of the answers links clearly to development. That way you're writing a development essay. Now, what does that mean? Your advice is talk about development outcomes. So if your point is linking to higher incomes, then your development outcomes will be higher material living standards, higher non-material living standards. You'll talk about alleviation of poverty, right? So talk about development outcomes. If you're talking about healthcare improving, you'll talk about life expectancy rates improving, infant mortality, maternal mortality improving. You'll talk about doctors per head increasing, right? So talk about development outcomes and the development indicators that will back you up. So going back to incomes, will you be then referring to GNI per capita PPP? Will you then be referring to the HDI that will be improving? So development outcomes and then linked to that development indicators that will improve. And then all of a sudden, all your points are development relevant, and therefore you're going to be scoring marks in the development essay. But my God, development is easy. Don't under-revise it. It's likely to come up tomorrow. And the last topic area that's often under-revised, current account deficits. Your balance of payments, right? But especially your current account deficits, causes of a deficit, consequences of a deficit. Know it well. There is one example in particular where that's likely to come up, that's for sure. So know your current account causes, consequences of a deficit really, really well. All of these topic areas, guys, are covered on the channel. And even at the time before your exam, blast through this content if you have under-revised it, if it's not well known, and you'll get that knowledge nailed, okay? So it's all there on the content, absolutely fine. Videos will cover you. On that note, also, have you guys been watching these really cool A-star videos? A-star videos in the revision for 2019 exams playlist, your UK stats video, UK supply side policies, macro hot topics, then there's macro power diagrams. Have you been watching those? Make sure that we're binge watching all the key videos ready for tomorrow. Okay, let's also talk about another hot area for tomorrow, right? And that is macro policy. Every single year, exam boards really latch on to this topic area and they like to ask questions about it. It's a huge topic area. It's not a surprise that they go for it, right? We're talking about monetary policy, fiscal policy, supply side policies. You've got to know these very, very well. These are big, big topic areas, quite likely to feature in your exam tomorrow. Okay, so in your head, self-assess. How well do you know these policies? So, for example, let's take monetary and fiscal. Expansionary monetary and fiscal should be bog standard. You should know your chains of analysis of the policies. You should know really why they would be used, what outcomes do they achieve, and the evaluation to that. That should be pretty bog standard. Supply side policies. Again, the policies should be pretty easy. Know which ones are market-based, which ones are interventionist. Should be pretty much bog standard. Let's talk a bit about supply side policies though. What you've got to make sure you're ready for is a supply side policies essay that can go anywhere. Now, a bog standard supply side policies essay, which you would go through LRS for, will be, for example, supply side policies to boost growth, supply side policies to reduce unemployment or the natural rate of unemployment, supply side policies to reduce inflation. So these are all your bog standard supply side policies essays where you go through a diagram of LRS shifting right. Fine. But what about supply side policies to boost competitiveness? Supply side policies to increase productivity? Supply side policies to reduce a current account deficit? Are you flexible with your knowledge of policies to then go into those areas? Now, those three areas don't require you to go down LRS. You just need your chains to finish with higher competitiveness, with closing a current account deficit, with boosting productivity, right? But that requires you to be flexible with the policies. Your evaluation is always standard for supply side policies, but make sure you're flexible there. With expansionary monetary and fiscal, here was a big complaint that examiners used last year, and they talked about a lot, and they said that a lot of the time, especially for policy essays, a lot of students were writing too simply, almost at an AS level standard, as opposed to hitting kind of higher level points, higher level evaluation. So let's take each policy area and let's kind of go through some killer evaluation. Let's start with fiscal policy. Now, it's natural that you're going to be talking about trade-offs. Trade-offs is a great way to go. So if we're talking expansionary fiscal policy, trade-offs with inflation, trade-off with the current account deficit. If you're looking at inflation trade-offs, your Phillips curve, and bam, it's already an A2 point. It's no longer AS, is it anymore? So trade-offs is always great. Look for that. Then for expansionary fiscal policy, you might be talking about Laffer curve, right? In a way to evaluate the cost idea. You can talk about crowding out effect. Great point. The inefficiency of excess government spending. You can talk about the role of automatic stabilizers. You can talk about automatic stabilizer. There's one more great point to make. Fiscal policy. The monetary argument, monetarist argument, is that will the economy self-heal? Do we need expansionary fiscal policy, or will the economy just simply self-heal itself? So there are some fantastic arguments you can use that will push you to a higher level kind of point, right? So remember all of those and try and make sure you don't go too AS. What about for monetary policy? Well, you can talk about liquidity traps, right? That's a unique point. You can talk about whether banks are willing to lend. Very relevant given the current context in the UK at the moment. Again, you can talk about trade-offs, bring in Phillips curve again. So with policy, have some killer evaluation points ready. some higher level points ready, and that will take you to the next level. On that note, my macro power diagrams video has got a lot of these key evaluation points for macro policies on there, and that will really help you. But who knows, that could be a BA difference and AA star difference. That's, great advice for you there. But let's finish macro policy by looking at the other side. Now here is where to focus, guys, right? Look out for this. Contractionary fiscal policy, contractionary monetary policy. Okay, contractionary fiscal policy, austerity. Do you know your austerity well? Contractionary monetary policy, the need for higher interest rates. Do you know your arguments for and against well? Okay, let's cover those quickly. Austerity. What is austerity? Cuts to government spending and increases in taxation to reduce budget deficits, to reduce the national debt, right? That's what austerity is. What are the pros and cons though? The major pros is that by reducing government debt, you get major benefits to the economy. So if you've got more stable government finances, that's going to promote FDI, that's going to promote domestic investment, because more confidence in the government means people are more likely to plan for the long term. So FDI comes in, domestic investment increases. But also it lowers coupon rates on government bonds. So it makes it easier for governments to borrow and cheaper for governments to borrow. All of those benefits we've seen in the UK since austerity started. Another major benefit of austerity is that it allows for flexibility for spending in a recession, a great point. So if there is a shock to the economy, potential recession that comes from that, because of austerity, if your government finances are now more stable, then it means you can spend. You can use expansionary fiscal policy in a recession, right? You can spend, you can lower taxes. So in case of a shock, in case of a recession, you've got flexibility, great point. Also, another benefit of austerity, with less government spending, it means you're going to have less crowding out, less inefficiency, less problems with excessive government intervention in the economy. What are the arguments against? Well, austerity could shock the economy into recession, right? So if you go very heavy with spending cuts and tax rises like we've seen in Greece, like we've seen in Italy, for example, then that could shock the economy and actually go into a recession. Other issues are the impact on public services and the long-run concerns with poor health, poor education, not focusing on key public services for long-term growth and productivity, but also the individual impact on people reliant on those services, people reliant on health, people reliant on education, people reliant on welfare, cuts to welfare and the impact on living standards for them. Then the other issue is the potential higher income inequalities as well, depending on how the austerity has been carried out, the taxes that have gone up, the cuts to government spending. So know your austerity well. A lot of examples have asked questions about that recently. But also, now pay very close attention to this. This is a huge hot topic area. And that is the need for higher interest rates in the economy or in the Western world, Should the Monetary Policy Committee, for example, increase interest rates in the UK? Do you have your arguments ready? Any example can ask that essay. So what are your arguments in favour? Your arguments in favour: to control demand pull inflation, you might say. Another benefit is to control the amount of debt that people have, to control asset bubbles, credit bubbles, and therefore kind of prevent systemic risk or the risk of bank failure. People are defaulting on their loans. If there are bubbles that burst, the risk of bank failure and systemic risk is then protected if you've got higher interest rates. You're promoting more sustainable lending and borrowing, which is also good for the long term. You don't have an unbalanced economy. And you also promote more savings. What are the arguments against? It could be a shock to the economy, AD left. The individual impact on the indebted, people might not be able to pay back debts if interest rates are higher. They may end up on the streets, homeless. They may have their assets taken away from them. That's a concern. Another major issue is it detracts investment, puts off investment. And in this post-Brexit environment, we don't want that. So just be ready for that essay as well. Some of those arguments are quite unique, okay? But macro policy is certainly worth weighing up and really focusing on ready for tomorrow. And just bear in mind what I said before, and then go to an A2 standard, a higher level standard. Don't be too boring and too generic, all right? Okay, good. That was really important. What a start there. Very, very important. Okay, let's take a bit of a breather. Ooh, relax. You can take that in. Bear in mind, guys, that this live stream will be on the channel later, so you can take it all in for sure. Oscar, shout out to you. What a legend. Love you like crazy. Tom, Jamie. You guys were all incredible. I mean, you've been keeping me busy these last 2 days. I've been absolutely shattered these last few days. The amount of interaction you guys on Instagram or Twitter, I've never known an exam season like this. So well on you guys. You've been working so hard. You've been putting so much effort in. It just screams, obviously. The amount of hard work is just there. But let's keep going, guys. I want to mention one more really important thing. And that is, okay, here we go. Knowledge of the UK economy. UK stats. You've got to make sure you know your UK stats to add weight to your analysis, to add weight to your evaluation, to help you in your judgment. Let's cover some core stats ready for tomorrow. Here we go. Annual growth rate 2018 in the UK was 1.2%. First quarter growth rate this year 0.5%. Unemployment 3.9%. Inflation just updated today 2.1%. Current account deficit as a percent of GDP 4.4%. Budget deficit 2% of GDP. National debt 83% of GDP. UK interest rate 0.75%. Core inflation rate 1.8%. Let's also mention annual wage growth 3.4%. They're the major stats that you need, okay? Those stats are going to be great. You can put them in to help you. But also, generally, this is the key bit. Knowledge of just generally what's happening in the UK. We call that, as examiners, contextual awareness. Knowledge of general context, making points in context, making your evaluation contextually relevant, making your judgment contextually relevant. Why is that so important? So then you don't speak too generally in the exam. So then all your points are relevant to, let's say, the UK economy or some other context that the question might be linked to. So for example, you should know that the UK is in a very, very small positive output gap. Our natural rate of unemployment is predicted to be around 4%. That's the figure that has been estimated, 4% natural rate of unemployment. And we know that our current unemployment rate is 3.9. So we have a very small positive output gap. So in your essay, if you're using the evaluation depends on the size of the output gap, actually give the figure and be confident with that. Give a judgment call about, say, it doesn't just depend on the size of the output gap. In the UK, the output gap is a positive output gap, a slight 0.2% positive output gap. Instead of saying depends on confidence, whether lower interest rates are going to work in promoting AD, say that consumer confidence is low, business confidence is low. Make a judgment call on that, contextual awareness. Instead of just saying depends on the state of government finances, whether the UK can afford a certain policy. Give the quotes, give the figures, 2% budget deficit. Talk about how we're in an austerity climate still at the moment. Talk about our national debt being very high. Make judgment calls. Instead of just saying, oh, it depends on whether banks are willing to lend. If we cut interest rates, will that mean that aggregate demand is stimulated? Depends on whether banks are willing to lend. No, that banks are not willing to lend to small and medium enterprises, right? Contextual awareness, examiners will love you for it. That's the AA star difference in student right there. That's really important. And also just bear in mind, even if we go into like trade and protectionism, right? Another hot topic area that you need to know very well. If you're talking about, let's say, a reason for protectionism, and you're linking it to Trump, USA and the China trade war, you wouldn't mention a point like infant industry argument. Do you see what I mean? Like that wouldn't score you very many marks, if any marks at all. It's just not contextually relevant at all to the US. You see what I mean? Whereas if you mention dumping, if you mention unemployment, if you mention trade deficit, much more relevant, okay? So bear that in mind. That's a huge point I've stressed there. Okay, one more thing before it's final advice for tomorrow. I've had a lot of questions from you guys about micro and macro. So obviously it's a macro exam tomorrow. Can I go into micro? 100%, yes you can. And same for paper one that just went. A lot of you are panicking and you're saying, oh my God, I went into a bit of macro. You know, I talked about certain things that link to macro. Am I going to be marked down for that? No. Examiners love the synoptic element in these papers. If you're able to do that and do it well, 100%, they will love you for it. So for example, if you're talking about the costs of growth, if you're talking about the problems of trade, if you're talking about the problems of FDI, if you're talking about the issue with market-based approaches, if you're talking about the problem with market-based supply-side policies, you might be worried about environmental consequences, negative externalities, in which case draw the diagram. Absolutely. Draw the diagram, focus on the welfare loss, and evaluate that way and say, well, living standards are not necessarily going to rise. People's welfare might be hit. Absolutely fine. Maybe you're talking about the benefits of free trade, and you're talking about greater economies of scale. You're linking to productive efficiency, you're linking to lower prices, higher consumer surplus. Absolutely fine. Maybe you're talking about comparative advantage, the exploitation of it, specialization, allocative efficiency, absolutely fine. Maybe you're talking about the X inefficiency or too much government spending. My point is, guys, it's absolutely fine. You know, if you're going into a bit of micro, then absolutely fine if you do that well and it's relevant to the essay that's been given to you. So if it's still answering the question, if it's still a good point for that essay, 100% it's fine. In fact, you're more likely to be rewarded highly. You're certainly not going to lose any marks, so don't worry about panic there. You're going to be gaining a hell of a lot of marks if you do it, okay? So don't worry about a bit of micro and macro, obviously, tomorrow. Okay, last thing I want to say before ending this live stream is to talk about paper one a little bit and to think about what we can improve on with paper one. Now, paper one was only a few days ago. You need to, in the time before the exam tomorrow, really think about paper one and make sure if there are any areas for you to improve on them. So, for example, your pre-exam routine. Did that work out really well? Did you wake up a bit early for the exam? Did that really help you? Did you sleep well? Did you focus on content? What was your pre-exam routine? Did that strategy work for you? But let me stress this now. What about your post-exam routine? Now, I've learned as well for the first time, right? Post paper one, there was way too much panic. And a lot of that panic came from you guys talking to your mates and going on these stupid forums, right? Well, why is that a bad idea? Because you guys will just gossip, right? Not gossip, but you'll talk. You'll talk a lot about what you've done. And maybe you're sitting there as an individual and you're thinking, I didn't do that. It was, oh my God, maybe that was the right way to go. It creates panic, right? On student forums, people are saying, oh, that was the answer. You had to go this way, otherwise I wouldn't have scored. Those things are so dangerous. Your post-exam routine should be get away from all of that because no one knows, right? No one knows how these exams are marked apart from teachers, apart from examiners. And what people don't know, what your friends don't know, is that there are so many different ways to answer essays. So many points will be accepted. Any economics that's relevant will be marked as correct. There is no one way to answer a question. So all that hype, all that post kind of talk, all those student room forums and all that kind of stuff, all that does, it just creates panic and it makes you stress and makes you worry. You can't afford that because you've got more exams to come in the future. So avoid that for sure. Be calm after the exam and just move on, basically. But when it comes to paper one, how did you use the extracts? Did that go well? Think about that. How did you use diagrams? Were they accurate? Were they referred to well? Were they relevant? Think about that. What was your time management? A lot of you were saying I could have done that better. Think about how you could improve your time management, right? Is it writing faster? Is it maybe making one less point or a few less points? I don't know. Think about what you're doing. Is it quicker reading the extracts? Is it quicker with your plan? Think about your time management and how you can improve it if it was an issue. Did you write your judgment well? Did you leave enough time for that? Did you follow the 3-point guidelines as I told you before? Think about all of that before tomorrow. Make sure you're ready and then you can smash paper 2 tomorrow, okay? But guys, before we end it today, seriously, you've got to trust me on this, 100% trust me. Paper 2 is going to be so much better than paper 1. And the great thing is, guys, you guys, a lot of you were saying paper 1 was great. You enjoyed paper 1. Hey, if you enjoyed paper 1, paper 2 is going to be balling. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to really enjoy it. Because like I said, it's basically a content test. If you know your content really well, you're going to see nice questions. Plenty of nice questions. You're going to pick and choose the best ones. You're going to absolutely smash it. Yeah? And like I said for paper 1, this time really believe. A lot of you came out of paper 1 and you were feeling great. Why were you feeling great? Because you had the content. You had the belief. You had the self-confidence, right? You had the faith in all the hard work that you'd done. Your mindset was so strong, wasn't it? Yeah, your attitude was in a great place. It's exactly the same thing for paper 2. And I'll tell you, between paper 1 and paper 2, you guys have been on it. Oh my God, I must have answered, 2,000 Instagram questions by now. Yeah, I must have answered so many things on Twitter, read so many things all over the place. You guys have been on it. You've been working so damn hard, right? It's going to happen for you in paper 2 because the questions will be lovely. The hard work, the content that you've learned is going to feature. That's what education is. That's what economics is. There are no shocks. If you know your stuff, you're going to score. Have faith in that. Have belief in that. And come out the exam. Avoid all the talk. Avoid all the chit-chat. Just come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. Come and tell me, look, EconplusDal, I absolutely smashed it. Look, Mango Dal, I nailed it. Look, Mr. Dal Fay, I absolutely killed it. Tell me that. Show me that confidence and that faith. That's what I want you to be feeling because you guys are going to smash it, all right? So let me know how good it's gone, how great you feel, and then we're going to prepare for paper 3. That's the mindset, that's the attitude. Students with that attitude, they went into paper 1, they nailed it. You have that attitude, go and smash paper 2 tomorrow, have the same thing, right? Love you guys to bits. You've been working so hard, I've given you so much. I know you're going to do it. You've got to have belief in those words. And when you do, come to me afterwards. We're a family here at EconplusDal, right? We're a family, we support each other. I'll support you through it. I'll tell you guys have smashed it. I'll tell you you've done a great job. And we can go for paper 3 and do fantastic in that exam as well together, all right? So stay strong, be amazing, do well in paper 2. When it's over, have a relax, take a well-earned break. then we're going to go again for paper 3. But thank you so much, guys, for taking part in the live stream. I gathered loads of questions to kind of help you there. That advice is really good. Go and watch it again if you need to. But above all, be amazing in paper 2 and let me know how amazing you were, all right? I know you're going to do amazing. Those grades are going to be fantastic. I'll see you all in the next live stream for paper 3. Thanks, guys. Love you all to bits.